How much would somebody have to pay you to eat first? Not the best seat, not the biggest portion, just first, every meal, for the rest of your life. Pick a number. Hold on to it, because you're going to need it later. You're a praegustator. It's Latin. It means the one who tastes before, which is a very polite way of saying the one who finds out. You live in imperial Rome, in a house where the food is genuinely extraordinary, and none of it is for you. You're a slave, maybe a freedman if things went well. And in this line of work, things went well is doing an enormous amount of lifting. There are enough of you that you have a guild, a real one, an organized corps of tasters with a supervisor and a payroll carved into stone on inscriptions you can still read today. Somebody in the Roman imperial household looked at the men who might die at lunch and thought, you know what these people need? Middle management. So here's your morning. The kitchen is underground, and it's about 40 degrees hotter than anywhere else in the building. You stand at a long table while the dishes come up. Peacock, dormice rolled in honey, something with garum in it because everything has garum in it. A cook you've never met hands you a plate and does not make eye contact. And you eat a piece of everything. Then you wait. And then everyone else eats. That's the job. That's the entire job. But here's the thing nobody mentions on your first day. The waiting is the problem. Because poison isn't a light switch. Poison is a slow morning. Aconite, wolfsbane, the pretty purple one, starts as tingling in your mouth and takes hours to finish the thought. Hemlock walks up your body from the feet. Arsenic gives you a stomachache and lets you go home, and you don't understand what's happening to you until sometime around the second night. So you take your bite, you stand there for a respectable pause, you nod, and the emperor eats. And if the food was poisoned, the emperor is now also poisoned, and so are you. And the two of you will find out together in about 4 hours. You are not a poison detector. You're a clock that hasn't gone off yet. Which is why one king decided to cheat. Mithridates VI ran a kingdom on the Black Sea and was so convinced somebody was coming for him that he started taking poison on purpose. Small doses, every day, for years. Building himself up like a man training for a marathon nobody wants to run. And it worked. We still call it Mithridatism. He has a syndrome named after him. It's a real thing. He beat poison. Then Rome cornered him, and he tried to kill himself with the one tool he'd spent his entire adult life becoming immune to. It didn't take. He had to ask a guard to stab him. Huge achievement, by the way. Guess what? It gets worse. Because everyone knows this. The cooks know. The emperor knows. And the people planning to kill the emperor definitely know. Which means your entire job isn't a wall, it's a puzzle. And you're the fun part of it. Which brings us to the year 55 and a 14-year-old boy named Britannicus. Britannicus is Claudius's son, the actual heir. Sitting one couch over is his stepbrother, Nero, who is 17, already emperor, and has recently decided that actual heir is a phrase he'd like to stop hearing. Nero goes to a woman named Locusta. Locusta is a professional poisoner. That's not a nickname, that's a career. She's on retainer to the imperial family. She has students. She is essentially a small business. And Locusta's problem is that Britannicus has a taster, so she doesn't get past the taster. She goes around him. At dinner, they hand Britannicus a hot drink. His taster takes a sip. It's clean, because it is clean, and he says so. Britannicus takes it, and it's too hot to drink. Everybody's had a drink that was too hot to drink. So they do the normal thing. They add cold water to cool it down. The water was the poison. Tacitus tells us he stopped breathing almost immediately. And the boy's own guests were sitting right there, watching him go rigid at the table. How do you think that went? Exactly. Nero doesn't even flinch. He says it's the epilepsy. Britannicus has had it since he was small. He'll be fine in a minute. And dinner continues. Some of the guests keep eating. Nero's mother, Agrippina, is at the same table, and Tacitus says her face gave her away. Not because she was horrified, but because she was surprised. She hadn't been told. Family. Now, if the taster couldn't stop that, what was he for? Well, let me introduce you to Helotus. Helotus is a eunuch, and he's the taster for the Emperor Claudius. He's also the chief steward, so he's not some kid at the bottom of the kitchen. He's the man closest to Claudius's mouth. In the year 54, Claudius eats a plate of mushrooms and dies. And the ancient sources have a suspect. It's Helotus, the taster. Obviously, he's standing right there. He handles everything Claudius eats. And if you were going to design one job for the express purpose of murdering an emperor, you'd design his. So here's the part I want you to sit with. Helotus isn't executed. Helotus isn't exiled. Helotus isn't even fired. He keeps working. He works through Nero. And when Galba takes the throne, and Rome is loudly demanding that anybody finally punish Helotus, Galba protects him. And then Galba gives him a procuratorship, a genuinely lucrative government post. Suetonius writes it down and doesn't explain it. Nobody ever explains it. The man most suspected of poisoning a Roman emperor was, professionally, the man hired to prevent that. He retired comfortably. So the job doesn't work. It didn't work for Britannicus, it didn't work for Claudius, and the guy doing it might be the one killing you. Which raises a much stranger question. Why did it last another 1900 years? Because you've been thinking about the wrong thing. The taster was never a filter. The taster is a message. He's a person standing between you and the food whose entire existence says somebody would have to get through him first. It's not chemistry, it's theater. It's a man-shaped padlock on a door that everybody knows how to walk around. And it works exactly the way padlocks work. Not by being unbreakable, but by making you do something obvious in front of witnesses. And once you see it that way, you stop being surprised that it never went away. Medieval kings had tasters. The pharaohs had tasters. Kim Jong-un reportedly travels with people who eat his food first. In this century, on planes with Wi-Fi, we have mass spectrometry. We can identify a compound from a smear you can't see. And there is still, somewhere on this planet right now, a human being whose actual professional function is to be the first one to find out. Which is why, in 1942, in a forest in East Prussia, in a concrete bunker complex called the Wolf's Lair, a 24-year-old German woman named Margot Wölk was told she had a new job. She hadn't applied. She'd fled the bombing in Berlin to stay with her mother-in-law in the countryside. And the countryside turned out to be near Hitler. There were 15 of them, all young women. Every day, 11 to 12 o'clock, they were driven to a room with a long wooden table, and they ate. The food, she said, was beautiful. Asparagus, rice, peppers, exotic fruit she'd never seen in her life during a war where nobody had anything. No meat, ever, because Hitler was a vegetarian. And she said the girls cried while they ate it. Not after, while. They'd sit there with the best food in Germany in their mouths and wait to find out. 2.5 years. Then the Soviets came, and an officer put her on a train out. She never spoke about it. Not for 68 years. She married, she lived in Berlin, and she said nothing until a local journalist showed up for a birthday piece in December of 2012 and asked her a question. And Margot Wölk, 95 years old, finally told somebody about the worst years of her life, including the part where the officer found her after the war and told her what happened to the other 14. Soviet soldiers shot them, all of them. She was the only one who got out. So, your number, the one you picked at the start, when this was a fun question about eating first. Rome had a number, you were property, so the number was nothing. And Margot Wölk had a number too, also nothing. Nobody ever asked her. That's the actual job, not the tasting. Being the person nobody has to ask.